Hello, good evening. Welcome to the class. We do this class every week. It's heart rhythm meditation. And this week, we're going to talk about strengthening your focus through mantra, through meditation. That is if we can stay on topic. We'll do our best. I try to start with a joke, not necessarily a good one. Those are hard to come up with. I'm delighted to have my co-teacher with me today, Leah Schaefer. Thank you so much, Leah.
Hello. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you. Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to teach with you, and that's, of course, why we do it.
Yes.
Are people getting anything from it? We don't know.
I think
we are.
I think so. I hope so.
Yeah, we hope so. Every teacher hopes for that.
We can only hope.
We can only hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with the thing about this topic, right, about focus, about concentration, when I see this topic, I think, oh my God, we're about to really take our medicine, like focus, concentrate, I mean, how many movie senseis have said something like that,
Otherwise, you'll get a strict awakening.
Otherwise you get a beating or something,
Focus.
I mean, we're not able to give out beatings in this format. I don't think. Let's check the settings actually. But I mean, the reason for that is because it's so important, right? Focusing your mind is the beginning of anything that you want to do, right? Like if you want to get good at it, you want to, achieve a skill, any kind of skill.
It's kind of like a first step toward it, right?
Yeah. And it's hard to focus your mind, right? I mean, the minute you think about doing that, your mind goes well, there's a lot of interesting things for me to think about. And some of them are really compelling. And some of them I'm your doubts and your fears and your memories and whatever, it all comes into play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the big problem is that sometimes you don't even know that your mind has wandered. And then you're like, oh, wait, what was I doing again?
Right. Why did I come into the kitchen?
Yeah, why am I here? So, we have tips and techniques for this, right? We have ways of doing this, ways that are helpful, but it's also kind of a matter of just doing it, right? You learn to focus by focusing, right? But a lot of times people come to me and say, I'm no good at focusing, I can't concentrate and whatever. And I feel like that's not really true, right? Even a person who, is very scattered will often, if you watch a person, there's often things that they do really, really focus on, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
They just don't think of that as focusing,
Right. Because there's an emotional connection and component whenever there is an emotional connection and component, whenever we love something, we're going to naturally want to attune to that and absorb ourselves in it, So,
yeah. And that's important. We want to recognize that. We want to know that that's happening. And we even want to try and use that to, get better at focus in general.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So, the mystics, of course, have come up with lots of fantastic, techniques and methods to do this. But before we get into the whole topic, let's do some meditation, and we'll practice this, right? So, heart rhythm meditation, again, it's a method that comes out of Sufism, the Sufism of Hazrat Inayat Khan, and it really focuses a lot on the breath, on your heart center, and on working to perfect the breath. So let's just try it out, and we'll kind of get a sense of how this works. So the very first step in this is to get your posture right. Now, I'm sitting in kind of like this, desk chair kind of thing. It's maybe not the best seating, but the way that I approach it is I sit all the way back in the seat so that my knees and hips on this chair, they're just sort of level. It's good if you can get your knees a little bit below the level of your hips. You can kind of see Leah is sitting on a couch there. Couches also aren't the best. We demonstrate on furniture that's probably not the best.
Yeah, and I'm sitting on a couch, but I have several meditation pillows that I have stacked up onto each other. So like I have like a specific meditation pillow, and so my hips are higher than my knees. So even though I'm on a couch, I'm sitting cross-legged, and my hips are higher than my knees, and that allows me access to my breath.
Right, absolutely. So you might have to do some modifications. It's a good idea to sit on a cushion. If you don't have a cushion, a folded up towel can work well.
Anything, yeah.
Just to get you into a better position. Sometimes I'll put the cushion, kind of like on my lower back or upper butt, kind of that area, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we want a little bit of support to help us be upright. But in general, we don't want the back touching anything, right? We don't want to be leaning back. This is me leaning back on the chair, and this is me not touching the chair, right? So,
Right.
that's important when you're dealing with furniture that is not designed for meditation, which is like most furniture, right? Sometimes you have to kind of do a little modification because you really want your spine to be upright. That gives you energy, right? If you lean back, you're going to be physiologically more keyed into sleep. And, meditation is hard enough. You don't want to be sleepy on top of that, right? All right. So once you have your posture down, then you can close your eyes and begin to go within and begin to focus on the breath. The first step there is just to notice what your breath is doing now. And breathe in and out just with a sense of appreciation for your breath. This fundamental thing that we do, so many of our breaths are unconscious and so many of them are taken for granted. We don't appreciate the life and vitality that we receive with each breath. So see if you can tune into that now. When you start to really appreciate your breath, you start to savor it. You might just start to deepen it and slow your breath down. It's a natural thing, your breath responds to your attention. Sometimes we have these moments where we tune into our breath and then we just take a sigh, Right. It's a very powerful way of just letting things go, letting things roll off of you. Now, when we're working with our breath, we want to make a couple of interventions. So the first is we want to make the breath deep in our bodies. We want to be doing abdominal breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. So you place your hand on your belly and you let your belly expand as you breathe in. Just let your belly really blow up like a big balloon. Let down all that armor that we normally have around the core. We normally keep some tension there, perhaps more than we need. You need to have some. If you're going to be in an upright position, your abdominal muscles need to have some level of tension, but try to let your muscles be elastic within that so that your belly can expand and contract freely. Now begin to make your breath slower. Extend your inhalation as you fill your belly up with breath. Just let that take a little bit longer. And as you breathe out, do the same. Breathe out a little bit more, a little bit longer. Maybe a little bit more. Slow down the rhythm of your breath. Now you might notice that just doing these two things, breathing, three things really, right? I've said sit up straight and try to be relaxed as you sit up straight. So upright yet relaxed, that's what we're looking for. And then make your breath deep in your belly, and then make your breath slow. Now, if this is all you ever take away from our teaching or this session, that's very good, because this really works. It slows down your rhythm. It will slow down your body, your minds, your mind, your thoughts. Right? It brings calm and relaxation and allows the stress to just slide off of you. I hope you're feeling that as you practice this. Now, the next thing we'd like to do is to make the breath rhythmic and heart-centered. So philosophically, we think of our heart chakra. Now, this is an energetic center of the body, of your spiritual body. And it's focused on your physical heart, but it's more than that. It's everything that we think of when we think of the word heart. You know, when we say, wow, that fighter's got a lot of heart. I mean, what do we mean by that? Do we mean they've got a very healthy physical heart? Not really, right? We mean that person has a lot of persistence. That person has a lot of courage. That person struggles on, even when the odds seem to be very much against them, right? That's what we mean by heart, right? We mean who you are at the core of your being. We mean your values. We mean your deeply held memories. We mean all your qualities that make you uniquely who you are. Even those ones that you're not that aware of, even those ones that aren't very well developed, it's still all there within you. And we want to energize that with the breath. Now, one way we can do that is by focusing on it, right? So we use the power of the mind and bring our breath into the core of ourselves. And that means focus on it, right? It means think of your heart as what is breathing, okay? Now, of course, the stream of air is coming into your nose as you breathe in and out of your nose as you breathe out, right? That's the air part of your breath. But the energy part of your breath goes wherever your mind goes. So direct your attention to the center of your chest. Just imagine, right? Your heart is taking in breath, taking in life, taking in energy, right? And as you breathe out, your heart is expanding that energy, expressing that energy, spreading the vibe that is you, right? We are vibrational beings. We are energetic beings. Energy is unlimited, right? The human being has an electromagnetic field. Electromagnetic fields go on forever. That is the physics. Tune into that part of your being that is energy and give it more energy with your deep, slow breath. Giving as you breathe out and receiving as you breathe in. And that's the dance of life, isn't it? We are always giving and receiving. And we'd like to go a little bit further and also tune into the heartbeat if we can. So this might be a bit challenging for some. Having taught this to many people, I know that it's common for people to not be able to feel the heartbeat. It's also very common for people to be able to feel it. So whichever is the case for you is okay. If you can feel your heartbeat, then you bring your heartbeat into rhythm with your breath so that you have the same number of beats on the inhalation as you do on the exhalation. Perhaps you breathe in for 6 beats and breathe out for 6 beats. Now, if you're not feeling your heartbeat, that's okay. Don't be dismayed. Just imagine, right? Imagine the rate at which it's beating. Just count to yourself in the rhythm that you think is appropriate. It's probably pretty close. But keep on focusing on it. I haven't met somebody who hasn't been able to feel their heartbeat after working at it, right? And what does working at it mean, right? It means practicing it, asking for that experience, looking for it, right? Breathe in tune with your heartbeat, rhythmically, slowly, deeply, and in a way that's heart-centered. Now you might feel that this is a lot to ask, and there are methods of meditation that are a lot simpler. Yeah, I'm asking you to do a lot. And you're like, oh, what were those steps again? Do what now? Do something else again? But the benefit of me asking you to do so much is that it gives your mind something to focus on. Your mind likes to have something to focus on. You use that, right? When you have your eyes closed, when you're being still, you are alone with your thoughts, right? And your thoughts can take hold of you and take you to all sorts of places, right? Now, when you get distracted and your thoughts go elsewhere, what's the thing that's going to happen to your breath, right? Your breath is going to unravel. You're not going to keep up the practice that I've laid out, right? Because it's not how you normally breathe, you know. So, and that's good, right? Because you now have an opportunity, right? You realize, oh, I realize I've stopped concentrating. you know, um, that's a good thing to have, right? And you can, immediately go back to your practice, right? Deep, slow, rhythmic, heart centered. All right. Now, the last ingredient of this is probably the most difficult, and that is to make the breath really full, to make the breath much bigger and more powerful than what you normally do. And you get to that by breathing out with great focus and great intensity, breathing in, filling up your belly, and then continuing to fill yourself up, to fill up the sides of your body, let your ribs expand, and then all the way up to your collarbone. The way that you draw in breath physically is by changing the shape of your thoracic cavity. It's amazing that we can do that, right? So you should feel a lot of movement going on, right, between the region of your collarbone all the way down to your hips, right? That is the whole operative part of the breathing mechanism, right? You should feel it in your back. You should feel it in your sides. This is a lot more work than we're normally accustomed to putting in when we breathe. And you have to really make your breath slow and controlled in order to do this. If you breathe really big and really fast, you'll quickly get lightheaded. If you are getting lightheaded, then you slow down your breath. That's the key. So this is a very different kind of breath than what we're used to. And it has tremendous power. Guys, honestly, I would not put you through this if it wasn't absolutely necessary. I mean, from my point of view, right? You could do a simpler kind of meditation. There's a lot of benefit to doing a simple practice. But I'm giving you all the best thing that I know, right? And the full breath part of that is vital. All right, let's end our meditation there. And when you're ready, come out of it and return to consciousness, to the here and now. Hopefully it never left. We got some nice comments here from Artemis Prime, who said, thank you for this meditation session during such continually more and more uncertain times. It's good to turn within when times are uncertain.
Thank you. And
from Chauncey, who said, this really helps me. Thank you again. Thank you all for being part of it. You know, we're creating this vibe together.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Asatar. Thank you for that.
Was your mind focused during the meditation, Leah?
Well, it helps so much to have your voice guiding us, you know, because then you're helping us remember to attune to all these different spaces within us. And so even though, so I'm someone that has this capability for hyper focus, right? Especially if I'm passionate about something. And that's probably part of the reason that I'm a meditation teacher. But it's like, for me, everything is all emotionally based. Well, most of the time anyway. Like a big percentage of my drive for my focus, right? And so you, like, through the intonations of your voice, were bringing me, you know, back and back and back and deeper. And I just felt my whole system relax. And that just, you know, it felt extraordinary, because the thing is that sometimes we're really aware of what's stressing us, but other times, you know, we hold tension in our body without knowing that it's necessarily even there. And that's one of the benefits of the practice we just all did together, was like, it really allows your system to relax on a very fundamental level. So thank you.
Yeah, that's a nice description. I mean, you know, I feel much the same when I'm listening to you teach, by the way. You know, I mean, I don't think it's something, you know, magical about me per se, but I think there's something about being led by somebody that you trust, you know, that does make things easier, because, you know, you're sort of going along with someone else's instruction and someone else's, I mean, like, it's easier to walk behind somebody. I mean, you know, densely forested area, right? Somebody breaks the path. It's
exactly
easier.
What I was thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, if somebody knows what they're doing and they know the area and they know how to create a path.
Yeah, right. And I, you know, that is, I think, a good metaphor for, you know, it's a metaphor that, let's say, mystics have used for a long time to describe the spiritual path.
Yeah. And it's also a big part, I think, of why mantra can be so helpful as well, because I feel like all of us, we're in this jungle of life, right? And we're trying to remember our center, and we're trying to remember to balance, and we're trying to remember what we need, just the very next step of whatever we need. And can
you just describe for everybody what is mantra? What is that? What does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So It's more or less repetition of a word or a set of words that hold a meaning, which I think that the individual, whoever is repeating the mantra, finds resonant within their being. So it's very much, and the thing about mantras in particular is like you're just choosing what to focus on, and you're using that in the form of words, and then sometimes you even use that in the form of music, like by singing the mantra, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But the words themselves, what's beautiful is that you can choose words that hold so much resonance within your being, but also words that are extremely ancient, or sets of words that are ancient, and that different, meditators, fire starters, seekers, um, you know, previous masters of different traditions have cultivated within their own practice, and almost like built up like a stronger momentum behind these mantras or these sayings that they found to just create a certain harmonic pitch within us, which basically helps us attune to that energy and that kind of ancient wave. And so it's helpful on a few fronts, because it's like, first of all, just honing in your focus to like a specific word or saying. But then
Mm-hmm.
it's also, when you start stepping in with like when it really matters to you, or stepping into practices that are just proven, like um, through their ability to replicate, the effect, repetitively replicate the effect. So they hold a lot of power behind them.
Which do you think is better, the ancient mantra, that might be in another language or something, or the one that a person comes up with on their own?
I think that's really, I think it's a yes and. I think that what matters the most is that it creates an emotional connection to you, and it helps to kind of accumulate or percolate the energy that you want to embody and the energy that you want to hold within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of success with ancient mantras. I have extraordinary success with those, in helping me attain energetic experiences that um, really bring me home and bring me a sense of home. And so I'm a big fan of those. But I've also found just creating my own affirmations, for myself, are extremely powerful. Even if I just say it to myself, and that's what we'll practice today, is saying it to your heart specifically. So like when I need to hear something and I say that thing to my heart, um, it is extremely powerful in giving me the remembrance and reassurance and nurturance that I might need in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm somebody personally who grew up with this stuff, and so I, like hearing sacred words in other languages or whatever is very familiar to me. Um,
Mm.
but I don't know that that's the case for everyone. I don't know. I mean, um, some of them are long, some of these, phrases are sort of long. And I tend to think that it's, when if we're focusing on a kind of a tradition, like there's a lot of benefit, as you said, to something that people have used for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
The energy seemed to build up in the in the sounds, like the actual sounds, um, or the
Mm-hmm.
sounds were chosen for a reason. Um,
Yes.
so there's something to that. I tend to think that it's better if it's shorter, because it's a non-rational thing. Um, versus, for me personally, if I'm going to do a kind of an affirmation or a phrase that is to bring out something in myself, I generally like that to be in English, and I like to, craft a phrase, because it brings something out. I'm working with meaning there, right? And then
Right.
for me, that's easier to do like in my native language. Um,
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And especially if you're crafting it yourself, right?
yeah.
And honestly, like mantra in different languages can sometimes be helpful because it allows you to think or feel in a way that you would not have done otherwise. And it doesn't trigger your rational mind. But when you are, the whole point of doing that is so that you can think differently, so that you can have a way of thinking that embodies like more of that energy, right? And so for you to then like either before, during, or after, you know, that like come up with your own narrative that really lines you up with, you know, your heart, mind, soul, you know, it's so powerful. So coming up with your own phrase, like through your own words, your own voice, I think it's extraordinary, powerful. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I know it's been really helpful for me. So
Well, did you want to share? I don't mean to interrupt. I mean, do you do you want
no,
to share your?
you're not interrupting. You're not interrupting. So okay, so let's meditate, right?
All right.
I just wanted to make sure, you know, if you had anything else you'd like to add. All right. So let's go ahead and try this out. Come and take your posture. So as you're ready, deepen your breathing. And then if you are able, start to have the feeling that you're breathing in rhythm with your heartbeat, or begin to breathe in rhythm with your heartbeat. So that takes a certain amount of just listening to this vibrational pulse that is your heartbeat itself, and that pulse that then will echo through your whole being, your whole body. So deep belly breathing, while simultaneously feeling how your heart is like this internal drum, and it's echoing out through your whole body and your whole being. As you listen, allow your mind to soften, your eyes to soften, your expectations and your brow, melting into the ever constant rhythm of your own internal center of self. Maybe placing just your fingertips onto your sternum. And as you breathe deeply, trying to feel your actual heartbeat. Trying to listen even more deeply. Any word that you place onto your heartbeat will echo through your whole body, through your whole being. So is there a word that you need to hear right now? Is there an energy that you need to remember in this moment of time? You might spend time listening, and you might just know exactly what it is that your heart wants to hear from you, exactly what your heart needs to hear in this moment of time. But it might not come just yet, and that's okay too. Maybe it's more of a feeling. Maybe it's almost like remembering what it felt like to be at the ocean. And if that feeling had a word, what would it be? And whatever word that you place on your heart, again, it's going to take it into your heart as you rhythmically say that word on your heartbeat. Your heart's going to circulate that word, that vibration through and through and through it. And the more that you weave that mantra, that affirmation into the fabric of your own being, into the fabric of the vibration of each heartbeat, the more that it will begin to spread through your body and echo and pulse out through your whole system, your whole being. Maybe it's a simple word, or maybe it's a phrase. The words that I choose, they usually mean something that is all pervasive, all pervading, such as the word omni. And then placing that word onto my heartbeat, onto your heartbeat, so that you can remember the very center, the very nature of that quality of life living inside of you. And then I want to invite you to place your hands over your heart. And you can even, if you are having any trouble feeling your heartbeat, you can even, so I'm placing my right hand on my heart, and then I'm wrapping my left hand around my wrist so that I can find my pulse. And so I don't need to do this anymore because I found my heartbeat. It took some time, but those nerve pathways will develop and you will be able to hear your heartbeat eventually throughout the entire duration of your breath. But if you're not there yet, then you can do this, where you feel your pulse and you place your hand onto your heart. And then bowing our heads to our hearts slightly. Deep breathing in, deep breathing out. Full breath. And whatever your heart might need to hear today, I want to invite you to just say that to your heart right now. So it can be a simple phrase, you can say it out loud, or you can say it silently. And then you're going to breathe those words in and out of your own heart. And the words that have been very helpful to me that I'll offer to you just as an example, but definitely not as a requirement, is the phrase, I believe in you. I believe in you. So if you can dive into the center of your heart, really feel your light, feel your love in the center of your being, the center of your heart, and tell yourself that which you most need to hear in this moment. Breathing it in and out of your own heart's breath, of your own center of being, center of self. What would happen if you told your heart you believed in it? All right, and then when you're ready, move your body and open up your eyes.
I believe in you. That's a good one. You know, one of the things I'm noticing about this is, you know, you when you work with something like that, it's like the meaning of it changes and deepens as you work with it, you know?
Yes.
So it's like, who is this I that believes? You know, what is believe? What is that? You know, like, I mean, you repeat it again and again, and you're like, believe, 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 right? I mean, um, and there's just something where you really, it's like what you think you know becomes, I don't know, less and more than what you thought you knew, you know?
Yes.
And and then who is this you that you're speaking to, right? How does that, and what's the relationship between this I and this you? And you know, I mean, these are very deep things to ponder, you know, because you're, by not specifying it, you know, um, you're working with belief and then the different parts of the self, or the self and others. Maybe you think of somebody else, you know. Um, so you know, there's a lot to that. Like it seemed very simple, you know, but then it becomes, I think, more. Um, you know, it sort of gets richer and richer, you know, like
Yeah.
the more you get into it, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's very much, it's so independent on the person, right? Because it's like the nutrients that you need is going to be different than the nutrients that anyone else needs, right? And so you can always trust, you know, whatever words come to you or stand out to you. Maybe you heard them, or you know, maybe you've read them somewhere. But it's like this like feeling of really bringing that nurturance into your own self and knowing through the experience that it is a part of you.
Yeah. I think this is, you know, very much of a piece with what we started with, right? Because we started with just working with breath, you know? So like breath, posture, and one aspect of intention, which is think that your heart is breathing. But adding something to that, right, helps your mind focus in a different way. I mean, that's one of the themes that we're exploring here, right? How do you help your mind to focus,
Yeah.
And so it turns out, I mean, what I learned from this, right, it turns out your mind is willing to explore the meaning of something, right? And is willing to kind of riff on that, and uncover new meanings in it. And this is something that your mind sort of likes to do, like,
Yeah.
oh, isn't this interesting? Um, who do I really believe in? I mean, like, that's a kind of an interesting question to ponder, and like, and
Yes.
what are, while your mind is pondering that, what are you doing? Well, you're doing your breathing, you're focusing the energy on your heart, right? It's actually easier to do all of the things that we said to do. I mean, I hope. I don't know what people are actually up to, but it feels easier to me. I'll say that.
Yeah. Yeah. I really love what you said about how it just starts to reveal itself to you more and more. It's like your mind finds some thread within that direction, and then whatever it is, that word mantra, it starts to reveal itself to you more profound, more and more, almost like it's revealing its mystery to you, like one
Yeah.
layer at a time. You know.
I think your mind doesn't like to pull an empty card, like your mind likes to have something in the bin, something's in the card, and you're
Mhm.
pulling that. Um, when it's empty, it's like, well, all right, put some stuff in it,
Well, and
put some
also
baggage in it.
right, or the things that you have like proactively been pushing down start coming up, right? And
Yeah.
then you're like, well, I can't stop thinking about that. And so then that's the fun part about this, is that you say so if I told you to not think about white elephants, right, what would you do? You think about white elephants, and so you have to proactively say, no, okay, I can't stop thinking about white elephants, so I'm going to think about this instead, right? And
Yeah.
so, and that is the moment where you are choosing and you're creating self mastery, and you are empowering your willfulness to be able to say, this is what I'm going to focus on, and it helps you not think about the white elephant.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like we want to keep a thought at bay necessarily.
No.
I mean,
Yeah. Good
we don't.
point.
It's not like we want to be like, okay, let's give you a more effective method of repressing your inner
Yeah,
stuff.
that's not it.
Not really. Like we we want to
Good
explore
point.
all that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we that stuff is important to explore. Uh, and yet we don't want to get derailed by it, right? Like, it's actually easier to explore whatever your inner stuff is once you've created the rhythm in yourself, right? Once you have your breath down, once you have settled into stillness a little bit, right? Shed some of that, you know ordinary day-to-day kind of consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
you've gotten still inside, you're in a much better place, right? Um, like when you're really stressed and you're late and whatever, that's
Yeah.
not a time to have an important conversation with somebody. You need space for that. And the same thing for yourself, right? You need the inner space. So, you know, this is not a way of saying we don't want to get into that stuff. It's more a way of saying, let's get into it from a position of strength, rather
Right.
than
And let
feel,
me,
being overwhelmed or whatever.
right. And it's like, it's also like, and let me strengthen those nutrients within me. So, like, before I go work out, like, I'm going to have nutrients, right? And so it's the same thing, like, with if there's a lot of things, a lot of thoughts coming up from different experiences or emotions, which is perfectly okay. And the mantra is more to help you kind of get past the stress, tension piece of that, and get more into the meditative state. So,
Yeah. Well, I also came up with a little bit of a phrase here, and but we're sort of short on time. I don't know if we can if we can
you can do
fully
it.
get into it.
Just put it on the screen.
All right. Well,
It'll
here,
be great.
here's the
The
so
wild card.
here's um, so this is a kind of, this is a phrase. It's more of an affirmation, right? So the phrase is, all that I desire comes to me. What I focus on, I become. So I'm trying to work with this theme, right? How are we strengthening the mind? How are we strengthening the focus, strengthening the concentration, right? That's a foundation. That's a foundational piece in all of meditation, but also in anything that you want to do, right? You need to focus on it. And one of the things about an affirmation is, like, when you say that, your mind immediately goes, really? Like that, right? Like if you say, all that I desire comes to me, there's a part of you that's going, yeah, well, that really true? You know, what about that time I wanted that bike and I didn't get that bike or whatever when I was a kid, like, or what about the long list of things that I haven't gotten, right? That, because, your mind likes to argue, your mind likes to debate.
Mhm.
So there's something that's very interesting as an exploration of just saying, where are my resistances to this idea? Like,
Mhm.
this is a very old philosophical idea, by the way, right? There's to say the things that you desire are attracted to you. You're attracted to them and they're attracted to you. That's how it works.
Mhm.
Very, very old idea,
Mhm.
right? So,
Mhm.
you know, this is not new to me or us or whatever, right? This is a, ancient kind of idea, right? And it's just interesting if you take this phrase onto your inhalation. Now, I think about it as being divided into like these beats. So and I was just working with it a little bit, as I was also listening to you, Leah. I was doing the meditation, but I was also thinking about this
Good.
phrase.
Yeah, do it.
And so you have to kind of make it your own, right? Even one that I wrote for myself, right? You still have to kind of make it your own and see, what does it feel
Yeah.
like when you say it.
Mhm.
So I like to work with it on the heartbeat. So I'm going, all I desire, right? 1, 2, 3 comes
Mhm.
to me. Okay, so that makes it 6. Now I
Mhm.
like to work with my breath pattern is usually like 12 beats in, 12 beats out, just because I'm comfortable with that. I've been doing this a
Mhm.
long time. Like that length of breath feels right to me, right? So
Mhm.
I then will say the phrase twice, right? All I desire comes to me. That's 6, right? And then I'll say it again. So rather than counting, I know that I can say this phrase twice with that rhythm, and that's better, rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? I'm keeping the rhythm, but with something that has more meaning, right? All that I desire comes to me. It's a very profound statement, right? Um,
Mhm.
and just what does it mean to be in that place where you feel, like I talked about, checking that, like your mind checks that. But after a time, your mind starts to go, whoa, what if that was true? You know, like, because
Mhm.
like the first step is denial. Your mind is
Mhm.
going to be like, bullshit, right?
Mhm.
I call bullshit. And then your mind is going to go, whoa, no, that has happened sometimes. Maybe that does work, right? So, you go through these different moments with it. Um, and that's also very profound, right? You go through a movement. So now, this is, I crafted the phrase in 2 parts, right? One part that has an inhalation, one part that has an exhalation.
Mhm.
You can work with this in different ways. Maybe that's too much to remember. I mean, this is why I put it on the screen in case you want to
Mhm.
work with it, the whole thing. But you're
Mhm.
perfectly free to just use one, part of that, and then just do that on the inhalation, do it on the exhalation as well, right?
Mhm.
I wrote a different phrase for the exhalation, just to, again, just to explore this, right? Which
Mhm.
is, what I focus on, I become. Because
Mhm.
again, we're
I
working with
love
that
that.
theme, right? Focus,
Yeah.
concentration. What does it mean to really concentrate on something, right? So, what I focus on, I become. Um, And
Mhm.
again, that's a natural thing that happens. Like when you really focus on something, you get absorbed in it,
I
like
love that.
there's nothing else there. Um, so, you can work with this as well. Let's try it out. I mean, if you want to
Mhm.
work with this phrase or some part of it, um, or whatever else. So you take your upright posture, you make your breath deep, slow, and rhythmic, like
Mhm.
I said before. Work on making it full if you can. Now, rather than counting the beats of your heart as you did before, or maintaining a mental count if you're not able to feel your heartbeat, whatever, rather than doing that, we're not counting, we're using the phrase. So if you're breathing 6 beats in, and you can work with that, right? All I desire comes to me, right? As you breathe in, the energy of the inhalation is the energy of receiving, right? You are receiving breath, you're receiving vitality, you're receiving the elixir of life. And the secret of the inhalation is that you can draw things to you, right? You are drawing in air, that's literally happening, but you're also drawing energy. And that part of it is unlimited. That part of it you can tune into way beyond where you are, right? Way beyond the physical air that's entering your physical lungs, right? You can focus on the energy that is coming into your heart from everywhere, from always, from eternity, from infinity. And then as you exhale, what I focus on, I become. What I focus on, I become. And again, you can work with this in 6 beats. So it's what I focus on, that's 4, right? I become, that's 6. You could add a beat or two if you're used to doing 8, for example. You can have 2 beats at the end, that's perfectly fine. 2 empty beats. What I focus on, I become. Boom, boom, right? Totally fine. You can work with the phrase in your own manner. Right? What we're doing here is like music. You learn an instrument, you learn the scales, you learn the basics, right? But the basics is not music, right? Music conveys a mood. Music lets you into another person's heart, another person's soul, right? Music is a way of expressing feelings and um, energy that you might not be able to express in another way. And the same with meditation, right? We can teach you the basics, we can teach you the techniques, but you must turn this into music yourself. We
Mm.
cannot really do that for you, right? I mean, we can create a vibe, we can be in the music ourselves. And there's something nice about being around that. But it's a tiny shadow of what can happen when you bring the music to life within yourself. That is where the magic happens. All right, we'll end our meditation there. So make sure that we've gotten all of our comments here. Let's see. Chauncey says, I've been thinking about that phrase since I saw it in the chat. It feels like it's a circle on a map, something to walk towards. Yeah. Is that true?
Beautiful.
There's something to this choosing for oneself. There's also something to it, okay, my teacher gave this to me. No, I mean, I've done both of these. Sometimes it's hard to think of a phrase or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
You can work with something that somebody gives you, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to come up with your own, but there's a time and place for everything, let's say.
Yeah. And absolutely. It was absolutely beautiful. And we would love for you to practice this, actually. So, this was something where it's a lot to try to convey in an hour. And so please practice this throughout the week. Send us comments, send us, messages, so that we can be with you with your meditation practices. And I know that we're running overtime at this point, but I'd love to end class with a mantra.
All right.
The same with everybody as we say goodbye. All right. So just as kind of a good night, good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on when you're watching this, here's a mantra for us. Trambakum yajamai sugandhim pushtivardhanam urvarukamiva Vandanan Vrityor Mokshi Mamrita
Well, thank you all so much for joining us this evening. We always enjoy the energy that we can create together, and like to support the show. Remember to go to the Patreon page. The link is there in the description. Do yourself a favor and follow Leah on Instagram. And we will be back next week.
Thank you, everyone, for practicing.
See you all then. Bye-bye.